Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only.
All right. It looks like we're live. Dave, how's it going? But you
Hey,
disappeared on me
buddy.
for a second. How's it going? How's it going?
It's great, man. Things are going good. How about yourself?
I can't complain. You know, we're like we're like the last minute team. I come on like 2 minutes before we're supposed to start. You come on when the intro is playing. So way to get prepared and warmed up for the audience.
That's right. That's right.
So, all right, man, how's it going? So you we talked about this before. You have joined the Wholesaling Inc. team, and you're doing some cool things there. You're a couple weeks in now. How is that going for you, buddy? Let's talk about that as we start this show.
Man, it's going great. We're bringing people into the program, and we do 2 calls a week, which is awesome. And I really just try to dedicate Monday and Thursday afternoons to the community, just to helping people. And the goal is to create financial freedom. You know, real estate's just the tool that we use, Don, to buy the assets, and it's the vehicle, right? But the goal isn't necessarily to be a pro real estate investor. Let's be honest. Like, the goal is to buy assets that create passive income so we can have freedom. And that's what we're doing, man. We're rocking and rolling. It's great. A lot of the students that are joining have in the last week or two, they have, already a couple rentals, which makes it so easy for me to just say, hey, tweak this part of your business, tweak this part of your business, and then they can 10X it, right? There's also some people that are joining that are wanting to buy their first, and that's great too. We love helping people start that journey of creating assets that spit off cash flow that can help them replace their income. So all in all, Don, it is awesome. I am so passionate about rentals and real estate, and really just freedom, financial freedom, right? That to me, it's so fun. I love teaching and coaching, and again, I don't do my calls like once a week or once every other week. I want to talk to my students twice a week. So I spend a couple hours on Mondays and Thursdays where we just get together and we just figure out what we can do to help each other. And the community is great because I'm constantly learning new things, and whenever somebody has a question, somebody else in the group might have that exact question, So all in all, I just love it, man. I'm having a blast.
Very cool. Very cool. I want to, since we don't have Gavin, we don't have a guest, I want to do something we haven't done, I guess intently. I used to do this series called Rookie Playbook. It's out there on iTunes for anybody who is brand new and comes across this. I encourage you to go listen to it. But we started with week 1 in Rookie Playbook on like, what would you do if you had this wild idea about being a real estate investor? Because it doesn't really matter if you want to be a flipper, a wholesaler, a BRRRR, guy or gal. What's the first thing you would do? You have this wild, crazy idea, Dave. What would if you had to start all over from scratch and you had zero traction whatsoever, but kind of knowing what you'd know now, what are some of the first things that you would do, like the first 3 steps you would take to get started, to get some momentum in your real estate investing career?
Love it. So the first thing I would do would take me 90 seconds, and I would just go on my Facebook and I would say, I am looking to buy houses for cash. If you have a property that needs some work, I would love to buy it or talk to you about it. And the reason is because A, it's marketing, but really more so B, I'm telling myself that I'm going to do this now. So just convincing myself that this isn't something that I want to do, this is something that I'm doing, is going to help. It's going to give me a small win, and it's going to help build some to get more wins. Right. So already I'm thinking in the gain, not in the gap. Like, I'm not thinking like, I got all this stuff to do to get to where I want to be. No, it's start small, make a post online. You might get some leads from it. You're marketing at the same time, but you got to convince yourself this is what you're doing. Don't dabble. Don't put one foot in, right? Let's do this. So number 1, I'd make a post. Number 2, I'd go on Facebook or Meetup, and I would find the local groups, and I'd block my calendar off during the times that those people met. And I'd make it my mission to know who the big players in the market are as well as to make myself known to them. That's number 2. And then number 3 is I would start educating myself, because it's not so much what we know, it's what we don't know, and it's the mistakes that I'd want to avoid along the way. So I would start educating myself. But already I'm doing marketing. I'm convincing myself that I'm doing this. I'm trying to find other people in my market that are doing it, so I can, essentially squat up with these people, learn, joint venture, so on and so forth. And then last but not least is just start educating myself, podcast, books, maybe even seek a coach, and shorten the time frame that it's going to take me to get that first deal or to buy that first rental. So how did I stack up, Don? What do you think?
I think it was great. When I think back to, because I started twice in this business. The first time around, I started door knocking. The second time around, I started the same way you talked about starting. Like I reached out to other wholesalers, other investors, other flippers in the market. I reached out to real estate agents. I reached out to title companies, and I started to get to know who the players were in the market, who I could align with, who was going to be an asset, who I could be an asset to. When it came to educating myself, I'd find as many wholesalers as possible, right? That's perfect. So when I came to educating myself, I started educating myself on my market. I think that's important. As important as getting a coach or a mentor to educate yourself on the business and the fundamentals of the business. Taking some time to learn your market, driving streets, driving neighborhoods, kind of figuring out like what are good areas. If you don't know what are good areas of your community, what are bad areas of your community. There are some areas that are pocket good areas surrounded by bad areas. St. Louis is an anomaly compared to most cities. I'll say that. St. Louis has a lot of pocket good areas and a lot of bad areas. So, but there's St. Louis is a whole different beast. If I had to start in St. Louis, I give people in St. Louis props. If I had to start in St. Louis, I guess if you know the market, that's one thing. But man, you got to know where you're going to land in that market. So, but I would get to know my market. I would get to know, where the buyers are buying, where the demand is, and I get to know that sweet spot price point where you're going to be able to turn the most inventory as a wholesaler or a rehabber. Because that's my game. Obviously, you being a bird guy would probably have just a little bit of a different strategy, but definitely getting to know the market and taking some time. As a rehabber, I would go stand in Home Depot and Lowe's and learn. There was no way I was going to understand everything about pricing, because I wasn't going to be a contractor and I didn't care enough. But I made sure that I understand enough about what the current pricing was so that somebody couldn't take advantage of me. And so those are some of the things that we did. I mean, that's really, how we started building momentum as an organization, me getting on the phone and calling people and just introducing.
Okay. So what will be the first 3 things? Building momentum is not the same thing as the initial 3. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
What will be the first 3?
The first thing I would do is get to know
this would be you starting over for the 3rd time.
If I start over for the 3rd time, I would get to know.
Well, number 1.
I would need to know who I needed to align with in my community. Number 1, who out there can I be an asset to? Who can be an asset to me? And because honestly, that becomes the path of least resistance. I'm about the path of least resistance because you got to learn your market, and ultimately, those are the people who are going to help educate you on what's working marketing wise, where you should be buying, what areas you should stay away from. There are people in your community that are going to be very abundant mindset, and they're going to people be very scarcity mindset.
Absolutely.
The people who are going to be abundant mindset are people who are going to want to help you because they know you're going to bring them opportunity. And those are the first. That would be number 1, is to align with those people.
All right, number 2.
Number 2 would be that's a fantastic question. I would. See, it just depends on the individual. Do you start marketing right away, or do you take some time to kind of understand your market? Because one of the biggest challenges people have is they're scared to make a decision on an offer because they don't feel like they understand the numbers.
Yeah, they're not all the way in the game.
They're not all the way in the game. So I would do one of two things. I would either, because I'm stubborn, I would learn my market and learn how to comp properties and learn the numbers. But the proper advice is find somebody in your community that's going to mentor you on that, or find a mentor that's going to help you figure those things out. That's the proper
Okay,
answer.
so both of those things, in my opinion, Don, they lead back to confidence.
That's confidence.
Right, and that's something that's hard to teach people to do. But one way that I like to use when it comes to the real estate investing space to help people with this is to let them know that mistakes get made, and that's okay. And even, after making 4,000 or 5,000 offers, my team and I sometimes make stupid and bad offers, and we have to go back to the seller and tell them it doesn't work or renegotiate it. And oftentimes we can renegotiate it. But if we didn't send that stupid offer in the first place, we wouldn't even have this opportunity, right?
100%.
So when it comes to comping and doing your numbers and having a mentor to help you with this, that's great because it's going to help give you confidence. But even if you don't have those resources, start making offers, because the way in which we use contracts, we have the ability to get out of these, right? My team doesn't even really typically do the due diligence until we have a property under contract. And in fact, sometimes we'll spend 90 seconds determining that initial offer. And that's it. That's it.
I don't disagree with you at all. I think we always talk about massive imperfect action, and I think taking action and failing forward is the most important component. When you think about the coaching students that we work with on a regular basis, and I'm assuming the coaching students you work with on a regular basis, they still can't get out of their own way. And sometimes knowing that you have somebody in your corner gets you the mindset you need to take that massive imperfect action. Yeah. Nothing is going to, whether you have somebody in your corner being able to help you with the numbers, or you go out there and you fail forward on your own, you're still going to have to take massive imperfect action. You're still going to have to make mistakes. But some people feel better having somebody that they feel like has a bigger knowledge base in their corner. And that's where I'm trying to come from. For me, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to fail forward. I'm going to build the airplane on the way down. I'm making the offer, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I'm going to pivot and I'm going to correct. And it doesn't screw my mindset up at all. Some people, they can't take that step. And I, in a sense, I would say I was one of those people early on in my career, because I was a rehabber and I felt like I had to have the private money backing before I went out and looked for the property. And once I had the private money backing, I was on fire.
Yeah.
And the reality is you don't need that either.
You don't need it. And you don't need to go to Home Depot and figure out the pricing too until you're buying materials. Don't go do that before you start marketing, start going to RIAs and meeting the people. No offense, right? I'm just saying, like, there's things we can do as we're building the momentum. Mm-hmm. There's things that we want to do when we're just getting started. So I think we agree on the majority of these things. Figure out who these players are in the market, right? Make sure they know who you are and you want to know who they are, because they're going to be able to help you. They're going to be able to sell your deals for you if you don't have the buyer's list, right? And or they're going to help find you deals if you're like me looking for rentals. And then other than that, start marketing of some sort. And it's the mindset. The mindset's the main thing, like I would say, do you remember back like when you very first started the first time you were door knocking? How many days or weeks did it take you of door knocking, of failing before somebody said yes? Do you remember?
Oh man, I was pretty lucky right out of the gate. I would say within the first few days, I got somebody to say yes. I was door knocking pre-foreclosures. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I didn't have any room even running my mouth, to be honest with you. That's part of failing forward. And within the first few days, I was able to get that person to say yes.
That's awesome. So my guess, though, is the number 2 and number 3 took 20% of the time that number 1 did.
Number 2, number 3, each time you locked a deal up and you learned how to pivot in the conversation, it became easier. Each time you Monday morning quarterback the conversation, it became easier to have the conversation. You
had the 100%. Confidence to keep moving that conversation forward.
Right. So you had the confidence to keep moving. Once you got the first person to say yes, once you get that first contract and you got proof of concept in your hand, now it just exponentially easier because you know it can be done. And it's a lot easier to go through, 5 no's or 20 no's or 100 no's to get that new contract, whatever the second contract, whatever it takes, because you know it can be done. So
Absolutely.
that's getting to that first yes is I would say, okay, getting to that first yes is the number one most important thing you do.
I agree 100%, man. You nailed it.
Right.
Don, I just finished up a good book. It's called The Gap and the Gain. Have you read it?
No, we did talk about it last week a little bit. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, The Gap and
Yeah.
the Gain. Great book. I might even go back for round 2. Sometimes I'll do that with books whenever I really like them. But it's really just a way to think. It's about mindset, and it's about measuring yourself, measuring your success, measuring your wins, and just measuring backwards. Don't ever measure forward. And yeah, man, highly recommend that book. I love it. All right, what does Matt say? Matt says, I am still stuck in my own way. It's more on raising money side and hiring a person. So raising the money and or hiring a person. Don, how long did it take you to hire somebody?
You know, the first time around, it took me about, I would say, close to a year to hire my first person. The second time around, the second iteration, I hired somebody before I even needed him right out of the gate. Like you just like I projected forward and I knew what my company was going to be, and I made my very first hire when I had no business hiring. So um, I think the biggest struggle people have when it comes to hiring somebody more so is letting go of something than anything.
Absolutely, it is.
It's letting go of that something and knowing that you can trust them. And it's no easy task to do that. I think we all go through that as entrepreneurs because we're the ones that have to drag ourselves to where we're at. And so, but you gotta take some time to consider, like, what is that task doing as far as, are you avoiding it? Do you suck at it? Is it something, Matt particularly, is it one of those things that's holding you back from making more money? Is it keeping you? I know Matt goes in and does some of his own rehabs, you know. Is it holding you back from making more money? Is it taking you out of answering calls from sellers? Is it taking you out of marketing? Is it taking you out of things?
Even more big picture. Is that what you enjoy doing?
Is that what you enjoy doing? So you got to quantify, like, look, we're all going to make mistakes in hiring. I still make them. Okay. It's just one of those things, people can fool you, and it is what it is. The ones you get right are the ones that are most important. But you quantify what you're losing right now by doing things that you don't love to do or doing things that keep you from making money.
Yeah, it's gap mindset.
Yeah, it's gap mindset. So, and you got to just get out of your own way and start making those choices, and getting people to help. Start small, start with somebody part-time, start with a small position, and ease your way into it if that's what you need to do. But getting, again, it's the same thing like getting the first deal, getting your first hire is the same thing. Once you do it, it becomes easier.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And then raising the money. Again, you don't need to do that in advance. It's going to be helpful to have some lined up, but really all that's going to do is just help build confidence when it comes to buying. But you typically, there's hard money lenders at every RIA. I don't know about your local RIA, Don, but I got 4 or 5 people at every RIA that are walking around handing out business cards saying, I look to lend money to people like you. And they start conversations. There's hard money lenders everywhere. And if you're not borrowing the money for 2 years, right? Like, I don't know about you, Don, you're probably borrowing for 4 to 6 months, 7 months at the most, 8 months at the most. Ideally it's 2 months, right? But when you're paying 14, 15, 16%, it seems crazy, but not when it's only for 60 days or 80 days. Like, it's not that big of a deal. If that $5,000 in interest is going to make you $30,000, is it not worth paying the 5 in interest? So my rebuttal on the raising the money side is, it depends. I think obviously on, what you're raising it for, but if it's just to do the BRRRR method or to fix and flip, or even to take a property down to wholesale it, there's money everywhere. Just don't be so shuttered to a 14 or 15% interest rate, right? Well, here's the cool thing. Once you borrow from a private money lender and you get loud on social media about the fact that you're doing this, people will seek you out and say, hey, I got some extra money I want to lend, and I'll lend it to you at 11 or 12%. And then that's not a terrible price anymore. And then as you do more and more, your momentum builds, your confidence builds, you're going to get other people coming to you as well. So the money is there. It may not feel like it. It may not seem like it, but it is if you find a deal. And the great thing is I'll sometimes take a proposal, which is just an email typically, to one of our private lenders, and they'll respond back with, yeah, I'll happily loan on this, or I'll give you 10 grand to let me have it. And it's like they're offering to buy a deal wholesale sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's just opportunity there, you know? And then when it comes to the hiring, Don, it took me 3 months to do my first deal, hired a coach. After 2.5 months, and then within having that coach for probably 3 to 4 weeks, maybe a month, I had hired on somebody. And yeah, going back, if I were to do it all over again, I would bring somebody on day one, just like you did that second time around. You know?
Yeah. Hire before you need them. They help you get where you want to go. So, Matt, I want to hit on Matt. Matt uses his own money in projects. When you use your own money in projects, your money you need to treat your money like kryptonite. And that's one of the things that people will do is they'll use their money as a crutch instead of finding new money, Matt. So I know your story, buddy.
Good point.
And you got to stop. You just got to stop using your own money as a crutch and keep. You got to start having those conversations about getting private lenders. And the fact, Matt, that you actually have a pretty decent size amount of money in projects, if you're able to pull that money out and put it in reserves in your organization, you'd be a lot more appealing to private lenders than somebody that's just starting out. And so you actually have that on your side as well. And I would definitely leverage that.
Love it, man. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Tabitha says, did you purchase leads from the pre-foreclosure, or how did you find these pre-foreclosure leads back when you were door knocking?
Okay, so back when I was door knocking, it was different. This was pre-2008, and a lot of things were different. Title companies would provide us the lead list. You can get once a week, you can get a foreclosure list from the title company, and then we'd go through and we'd do our little searching, and we'd find websites and stuff like that where the actual servicers would post the foreclosure leads. Now, what I would do today, if I was door knocking pre-foreclosures or doing anything the sort, we actually use this service for a lot of reasons, but foreclosures is one of them. There's a company called Property Radar, and so if you go to propertyradar.com, there are a few other companies out there that I hear really good things about, but Property Radar is the one I know. So propertyradar.com, and you can actually pull foreclosure lists from there. There is a monthly fee with that. There's no affiliate. I would love to give out an affiliate on that, but they don't do affiliates. So, but they have accurate information on sale dates, past liens, and stuff like that. And they're a great provider of lists for properties that are in pre-foreclosure or in trustee sale. And it's going to depend on the state too. Some states are judicial, some states are non-judicial. California is a non-judicial state. What that means is the servicer, the bank, can actually foreclose on the property without permission of the court. And so they will notice you that you're in default. In California, it's 3 months and 21 days on average. Roughly 3 months in, you'll get a notification that you've now been scheduled for sale, and about 3 weeks later, you'll go for sale. Every state's a little different. And when I want to encourage people to also look at your state laws when we're talking about foreclosure, I feel it would be irresponsible for me not to just say that. In California, there is Section 1695 of the California Civil Code that talks about equity purchasing, which is what they call it. And so I would just check with your state to see, for instance, California requires us to have certain fonts on our contract. It has to be 10-point font with a 14-point font for titles. It has to give them a 5-day right of rescission where we can't give them any money or have them sign any documents. And there's a few other things we have to specify in our contracts if we're purchasing properties that are in default. And so if you don't follow that, you don't have a specific contract for purchasing foreclosures in California, they can actually go back and get damages and undo the sale and all that kind of stuff like that. So I've never seen anybody do it, but they can. And so just understand your state.
The consumer?
It's to protect the consumer.
It sounds to me like it's protecting the bank.
No, it's not actually. So it's 5 days or 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. the date of the sale. So that technically by law that you can't do anything with that property. And nothing ever, all it basically does is it's trying to protect the consumer from somebody coming in and doing what's called equity skimming. So if you got a, you got a
Isn't that
property,
sometimes a better option for the seller than them losing 100% of their equity to the bank? I feel like this law
1,000%.
is crooked, man.
It's at that. Well, everything has unintended consequences. It's designed to protect the consumer, but what it does is sometimes it creates situations where it discourages investment. Right now, California is trying to pass a law. I don't know if you see this, Dave, but they're trying to pass a law right now where it's called the anti-speculation law, where they're basically trying to say that if you flip a property, if you flip a property, they're going to charge you a 25% tax on your flips, because they're saying that flippers, speculators as they call them, are coming in and they're buying up properties and they're driving the prices up, and they're keeping homeowners, the average homeowner, from being able to come in and buy a property at a reasonable price. And so the unintended consequence is we're the people who come in and we buy properties in neighborhoods that haven't been taken care of, and it may be the ugliest house in the block with a hoarder or just years of deferred maintenance. And we're coming in and we're spending our money making that property pretty again, and bringing in a responsible homeowner that's going to respect and appreciate that property. And so the unintended consequences is the people who are coming in and bringing these neighborhoods back are going to be disincentivized from doing that. So I don't think this law is going to pass. Just because they propose it doesn't mean it's going to pass, but it's that crazy thing of let's try to protect the consumer from the evil moneymaker. And what are the unintended consequences now? Well, now you're discouraging investment on properties that need somebody that has our skill set to come in and bring them back to what they deserve to be.
Yeah, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm telling you, dude. I'm telling you. It's you can't look. There are unintended consequences with everything somebody does. You try to save one person, you impact somebody else. You try to impact this person, you impact somebody else. And sometimes the greatest ideas in theory turn out to be some of the dumbest things people can do. Why would you discourage investment? Why would you discourage me from coming in and taking a house? Like, for instance, we bought a hoarder home in a neighborhood one time that had been neglected for 15 years. And the ceiling was falling in on itself. The house was basically collapsing. You have two choices. One is continue to let it rot until you have to bulldoze it. Or two is you have somebody come in like me and you buy it for pennies on the dollar. We put a large investment into it, we make it beautiful again, and we sell it to a family that's going to take care of it. And now it's no longer blight on the neighborhood. But in this particular case, they want to tax me 25% on my gain on that. For doing that. Why am I incentivized to do that?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense, man.
Yeah. So, but anyway, the point is there are laws that are designed to protect the consumer, whether they have negative consequences or not. They're there in every state, and it's just important to understand in your state what those are if you're going to be dealing with any kind of default. It's just important to say that. But default, if you're truly coming from a sincere place of wanting to serve a homeowner and help them out, and you're going to do right by them and fair by them, obviously get a good deal for you and a good deal for them, and that way you can turn a profit, but they're not getting ripped off, then by all means, it's a great way to, especially now as the pending foreclosure crisis is coming from all of these, these deferred payments and stuff like that through COVID. Those things are coming due, and if people can't work with their bank, some people just won't work with their bank to get that reconciled. And banks are incentivized to work with people right now, but some people won't, and those homes are going to go into foreclosure. There's going to be a wave of those, and there's going to be a huge opportunity for investors.
It says the process is hurting the housing market and keeping average people from buying a home.
Right.
What? Put that back up here for a second. Right here. What?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of these homes aren't even habitable.
That's my point. You're right.
How is a non-habitable home hurting the population from buying a home?
Exactly.
So what would be some ways around this, assuming they pass it? I guess subject to, and then assign the
subject to, you're still
zero out the HUD with your profit as a marketing fee or something like that.
I'm sure that there'll be a way that it has not passed.
Right.
And the likelihood of it passing is very slim to none. I think there are I hope there are some smart people that will realize the unintended consequences are way too damaging to the housing market. But strategy changes. You go into, you go into now Burr and you keep rentals. You go into Airbnb. You go into some strategies, probably like you said, with sub 2 or even, some type of land contract situation. Whatever we're legally allowed to do in California. So. But again, I don't think something like this will pass, but it's just the craziness. A lot of states are doing this right now, and it's insane.
Yeah. Is there a way to get lists from banks? Does that just depend on the state as well? The banks don't really give the foreclosure information out, but isn't the foreclosure information public though? I mean, why would somebody, and Don, you're the perfect person to ask. Why would somebody go to Batch Leads or PropStream, which is the two services I use and love to get most of my data and my lists, right? Why would they not be able to pull that data from there? Why would they need to go to like Property Radar or foreclosure.com? I think is another one. What are the advantages of those versus just the general list data?
Convenience. If you go to Batch, PropStream, Property Radar, or foreclosure.com, it's convenience. The servicers, you have multiple. The attorney, essentially, the servicers of the foreclosure will usually post the auctions that they're responsible for on their sites, but you have to know what all those sites are and try to compile that information and try to keep up to date. So it's convenience. Property Radar, the reason why, and foreclosure.com is probably very similar, but Property Radar, the reason why we like it is because it gives us, like, if the sale's been postponed or, that kind of thing, like we can see that data in real time. And, we know what's going on with that property. So whereas if you're trying to track down all the servicers' websites, just a pain in the butt to try to compile and keep up with all the information.
Okay, so this is really more so just for you to have some of the due diligence done on your behalf, making your life easier for you and your team.
Just having it all in one spot.
All the information is right here versus just saying, hey, this guy is going to foreclose, but we don't know if he's got judgments, first liens, second liens, sewer issues, like all that stuff's brought to the front basically, right?
If it's recorded against the property, generally you're going to see it in a service like Property Radar, the loans and liens and the lien history. So yeah, I mean, there are some advantages there as well. And again, it's one spot. It's just one spot. I don't have my team looking at 5 or 10 different websites.
Love it.
So,
all right. Serene says, where do I get the contracts from? And then also, are there right and wrong contracts?
When it comes to, and Dave, you can probably answer this as well, but when it comes to a purchase contract, I can't say that there's right or wrong contracts. You just need to check with whoever you're comfortable with for legal advice to make sure the contract you're using is appropriate. I've seen 1-page contracts. We use a 3-page contract. Our California Association of Realtors uses a 12-page contract. But for the foreclosure document, it's going to be state by state. And that's not something I've given out in a while. I guess I could give out our contract. If somebody wanted to email me at donafliptalk.com, I would send them out the foreclosure.
Don, we have an example contract at coffeewithcloserslive.com.
A regular contract, right?
Yeah, and I want to say it is a 1-page, very, very simple contract. And I've used 1- and 2-page contracts 90% of the time to get interest in a property. And if I need to go back and modify it or use a different contract after I have control, I will. But usually a 1 or even a 2-page contract will get the job done. I mean, when it comes to contracts, you're gonna hear people say you should always have an attorney review it, and I don't disagree with that. However, attorneys make money by sending iterations and edits. So they're gonna want you to go back and forth 49 times so they can get you to pay them $1,500 when the contract was probably valid or good enough in the beginning. So nothing you can write attorneys, but it's like they're just humans. They're just gonna interpret a contract just the same way you are. So as long as there's no language in there that's unknown to you, you're not really any less qualified, in my opinion, right? So in order to do a deal at a title company, you need a piece of paper that's got 10 things written on it. That's it. 10 things, right? You need the date, you need the address, you need the seller's name or entity, you need the buyer's name or entity, you need the earnest money, You need the acceptance date, which isn't even required, but I would recommend you put it on there so your contract's not valid or open forever. You need the closing date and location. And then you need the buyer and seller to print, sign, and date. And if there's any escrows, the amount of those as well as when they're due. That's it. Everything else isn't even necessary. It's just to protect you or somebody else or whatever. But, you know, basically you could have a contract written on a napkin. Right?
Agreed.
So I just say,
Whatever.
don't overthink the contracts, guys.
I say, yeah. I say have your attorney review it just to cover my butt. No one ever does. But
All right. We're covering Don's butt today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's not a bad idea by any
Yeah.
means, but you don't need, you know, contracts are pretty basic. So as long as you have some CYA clauses in there, right? A couple of my favorites would be based on partner's approval, contingent on verifying taxes, title, and value, subject to sewer inspection, subject to final walkthrough. I mean, simple things like this, right? Subject to, you know, getting 3 quotes or bids and approving those bids from, you know, local contractors. You can write in anything that you want. Subject to financing, subject to appraisal. You're probably not going to be winning great wholesale deals with those type of CYAs, but they are still going to allow you to exit the deal in the event that you don't approve of those items as they come back. Love it.
100%. I've actually got to jump off in a minute, but here's a good question that I think is important. Do either of us offer a mentorship or coaching? We actually both do. Dave, how do they find yours?
Yes. So I like to teach rentals. I like BRRRR method and creating passive income. That's really my passion. That's what I like to coach and teach. And if you want to learn more about that, go head over to wholesalinginc.com/rentals. I can actually drop that in the comments here as well.
And then I teach on wholesaling. I teach on rehabbing. I teach on building your business. We also have a mastermind community called the Inner Circle Elite. And you can actually just go to fliptalk.com, and in the upper right-hand corner of that, if you're on your browser, you'll see apply for coaching or join our mastermind. You can apply for either one of those. If you're obviously on your phone, then you have the little hamburger stack there. And again, you can just click on join, you know, apply for coaching or join our mastermind. And you can find what we have going on there as well. So we both do. And I think Dave is incredibly smart. If you're looking to learn about BRRRR and rentals and all things BRRRR, then go to wholesaling.com/rentals, and you'll be with one of the most genius person in the BRRRR method that I know. So.
Hey, I like to just get myself into trouble and get into situations where I got to start to think really hard. So it's paid off. I'll tell you, I really like it. But again, Don, you are the man when it comes to fix and flip and virtual wholesaling even, and just running your business, building a team. I've learned so much from you over the years. So I love getting this opportunity to get together with you once a week, even if it's only for 30 or 40 minutes, man. You're a wealth of knowledge, and you always bring such great insight to the table. So
Likewise,
love it, man. Well, Don, I know you got to run, man. Let's wrap it up. Guys, thanks for coming on today. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. We love interacting. I like the fact that we actually got to bring up that news article. Maybe we should do that more often, man. It was kind of fun. Talk about new recent events that are happening in the space, so on and so forth. So, Don, enjoy the rest of your day. And guys, have a killer day. Go send some offers. That's how we're going to get deals.